My first question is, these questions are about your job and what you do. Um, my first question is, why did you pick this career?
It's interesting. I
It's
mean,
in, it's interesting.
yeah. I mean, um, do you know? Okay, do you know what I do?
You're an epidemiologist, right?
Okay, right,
Yeah.
right. Okay, if you don't understand, so what they do or what we do here at the health department,
Um, if I understand right, epidemiologists they study the spread of diseases, correct?
right? Okay, and there, I mean, there's different. Uh, it depends on what level you are and
Uh huh.
how you work that end of the of of, of study.
Yeah.
So with us here, so we're kind of the local health department is kind of the front line folks.
Uh huh.
Okay, so whenever there is a reportable disease that comes up at the doctor's office or laboratory, they call us,
Uh huh.
and then we take that information, and then we usually contact the case and see, try and figure out how they acquired this disease and what we can also do to prevent the spread of it. So
Fantastic.
it's kind of fun. It's kind of
Yeah.
like a little detective work.
Yeah, that sounds pretty interesting. My second question, if you had to do it again, would you choose the same career?
Yeah, yeah, I do the same career.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Um,
Um,
and so at the state level, it's going to be a little different. So we gather the information, and then we send that to the state, and the state kind of gives us sometimes a little more guidance if it's a complicated case. Um, uh, and the state, I mean, we keep numbers, but then the state we keep numbers in our district, but the state keeps numbers for the whole state, and
uh-huh.
then that information eventually also goes. The state will send it to the Centers for Disease Control.
Okay.
But I don't know. I don't think they send the identifying information. Like
Yeah.
they won't send the actual name of the person who has, like, say, salmonella.
Uh-huh.
They will just say, "Yep, we have a salmonella case here," and they report that to the CDC, and then the CDC will gather that data and give you a nationwide,
Nice.
you know,
That sounds
statistics.
that sounds pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think's the best part about your career?
Anything can come up at any time, you know.
Yeah.
Especially with this Ebola stuff,
Uh-huh.
Last year, wasn't even thinking about Ebola.
Yeah, no
Farthest
kidding.
from my mind.
Nobody was.
So it's kind of exciting that way because you never know what's coming in.
Yeah. Well, on that case, what's the worst thing about your career?
Uh, the worst thing probably about this job is, um, sometimes that is also the worst thing.
That stuff can just come up whenever.
Yeah, because sometimes you're more prepared than other times.
Yeah.
And if something comes out of the blue, it's exciting at first, but it's also very difficult to deal with if there's not a lot of research or information out there on it.
Uh-huh.
What do you tell people?
Yeah.
And, like, let's say with this Ebola, CDC, they have guidelines, and sometimes, they may change,
Yeah.
from day to day.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of the hard part, but it's all exciting at the same time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You got the good and the bad at the same time, and it's kind of exciting.
Yeah. A lot of
Sometimes very stressful.
yeah. I bet it can be, especially for those people that are facing Ebola right now, like in Texas. That'd be really tough.
Exactly.
What advice would you give someone planning to go into this career?
Well, you go in, probably, the first thing is you want a career. I mean, it depends on what you're. I mean, do you want a career that where you can make a lot of money at it?
Uh-huh.
Because you're not going to make a lot of money at this career.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not doing this for the money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I want to do it for the money, I'd probably go back to school and, you know,
Yeah.
get another degree, I don't know, business degree or something. You know,
Uh-huh.
if I wanted to make money. I mean, this is kind of a field where it's I took it because, you know, it's very interesting to me,
Yeah.
and it's something that I can, you know, I kind of look at it as this, you know, something I do for the community too. You
Yeah.
know, not just for
Like
money.
a public service.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. Public service. Yes.
Yeah.
Very good choice of words there. Exactly.
And
So that's what I would recommend, you know, to people is, you know, you got to figure out not only what you like and what you want to do for the rest of your life. You know, pick something you like
yeah.
because it's more enjoyable. Obviously, you know, if you go to work every day where you're not bummed out because you don't like your work, you know.
Yeah.
But you also have to take that into consideration too. I think.
Yeah.
You know what interests you? What kind of lifestyle do you want to lead? You know, do you want fancy boats and toys and big houses and stuff like that, or you know, I'm not saying you can't do that in this field either.
Yeah.
Because there are epidemiologists that work in the private field. Let's say for pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah.
On their epidemiologists may work more with clinical trials.
Uh-huh.
So when they have a new drug out, you know, they have to do all those trials before, you know, they got to know what side effects are in the drugs before, you know, the FDA or whatever gives them approval to sell it, right? They have to have all this information done in all this clinical trials about how effective it is, what side effects could possibly people get, and all that. And they do that with clinical trials. And so with pharmaceutical companies, you know, you could probably make pretty good money there.
Yeah.
But it's a different line of work, though.
But I bet you feel pretty, since it is a public service, you feel good about yourself and what you're doing, even though like it's not the most glamorous career. It's still, you get satisfaction out of it, and
right,
and that makes the difference.
Yeah, I mean that makes a difference when coming to work every day.
Yeah.
You know.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, that, you know, my advice to a person who's, you know, looking for a career, find something you like to do.
Yeah.
That interests you.
Okay.
And then also figure out, you know, I could do this, you know, I'd like to do this, but also, you know, if you want to make a lot of money, you got to figure out, you know, where you want to, in that field, whatever you want to do in that field, you know, if you want to make a lot of money, you know, so if you're an epidemiologist, you might want to maybe work for a private field, like pharmaceutical companies or something, rather than at a government level.
That makes sense.
You know, so, you know, you always have to take all that into consideration.
Okay.
And you know, and it's hard. I mean, when I was in school, actually, you know, my bachelor's degree is in chemistry.
Okay.
And because, you know, I thought, well, I make pretty decent money stuff, but, you know, I got my bachelor's degree in chemistry, and then I was like, I really don't want to do this for the rest of my life, you know?
Yeah.
It doesn't interest me that much. So when I went to graduate school, that's when I went into public health and epidemiology.
Okay.
And so, there's a good example, you know?
Yeah.
And it's hard because there's so many things out there that people can do, and there's so many things out there that I never knew were out there when I was an undergrad in college, you know? And you know, I was probably like typical undergraduate college student, you know, I don't know how many majors I had, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I think I started with, you know, I did chemistry, and I was like, well, I'm not sure if I want to do that. And then I went to like accounting. I was like, no, I don't. That doesn't interest me. And I went to criminal justice for a while, and then education. And I was like, oh no, I took some classes. I don't know if that interests me either. You know.
Yeah.
And then after a while, I'd been in school for this is 3 years now. I'm like, man, I gotta pick something to get a degree here. And so I always kept taking my science and math classes.
Yeah.
So I kind of looked at, the courses I had completed and I went, no, what's the fastest way out here? And somehow chemistry was.
Went back to the original.
That's not the way you want to do it.
Yeah.
That's not the way you want to kind of pick a career.
Yeah.
But and I didn't even really know what epidemiology was.
Uh-huh.
I had got my degree, and then I was thinking about in chemistry, and then I was thinking about maybe a physical therapy. So I took some other classes after I graduate, like anatomy classes and other classes that I needed for physical therapy. And I was taking those classes, and this was I was actually in South Carolina at the time, and I was with my brother-in-law and a friend of his, and we were out fishing.
Yeah.
And his friend started talking about these epidemiology courses he was taking at the the University of South Carolina.
Uh-huh.
I was like, oh, that kind of sounds interesting. And then also at the same time was when that movie Outbreak. I don't know if you've seen it with Dustin Hoffman.
No, it sounds familiar, but I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah. No, I think that was in the that must have been in the 80s. No, probably 90s.
Yeah.
Early 90s or something like that. I think that movie came out.
Okay.
Can't remember, but that movie, and with him talking about the epidemiology program, got me interested in it.
Yeah.
And that's when I looked more into it, because I really didn't know what it was. Epidemiology doesn't have something to do with the skin.
Uh-huh.
No, that's it. No, that's epidermis. You're thinking of, not epidemiology.
It's close though. It's close.
So that's how I kind of worked my way into this.
Well, that sounds like quite the path to go down.
Yeah.
I have just one last question for you.
Okay.
Do you still enjoy working in your career as much now as you did when you first started?
Yes.
Fantastic. That's the best
like
part.
Like I say, it's always changing,
Yeah.
And that keeps it interesting.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's great. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, no problem.
Have a wonderful day.
Okay, you too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.